All right. Hopefully the stream can hear you, Ian. Say hi.
Hello.
All right. Brilliant.
Does that work? Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. All right. I kind of thought this was at 6:30 my time, so now I'm a bit. But that's fine.
Oh, all good.
Um, I yeah, the chat are kind of going crazy about this. I wanted to just kind of. I didn't have any like solid plan really. Just kind of thought we'd just chat about midnight things and stuff. I've put so many hours into the alpha on the internal thing. I think we had like 24 hours to play it, and I put like I want to say 14 hours in easy. It was
Efficient use of your time. Appreciate it.
definitely, and it's so funny as well because it's not even my like it was obviously a temporary account, so it's not even I have to
Yeah.
do it all again, but that's totally fine. I did want to ask about the Arcantina. A
Sure.
couple of things about that. So I got to it through the Arator quest line, and I wasn't sure like how you get back to it. Like I had a quest item in my bag, which I don't know if it was
hmm
bugged that it was staying there, but like I guess in general beyond that, like what's the sort of like way to get over to there?
I believe there will be a portal in Silvermoon that is freely reusable that we plan to like we can move around. We can have portals anywhere. The idea is this is like a mystical nexus, but we want it to be freely accessible going forward.
Brilliant. Also, like actually, one question I've seen a lot of people ask is, I know obviously it's quite early, but is the plan to keep it a evergreen feature or is this just a midnight feature?
I think the plan is for this to be evergreen. I think that's kind of why we chose to use this, mystical construct as opposed to just putting a tavern in Silvermoon or some other expansion fixed location. Because yeah, I think a place for visitors to mingle and players to interact with heroes and launch different narrative-based quest lines. That's something I think we're going to want to use forever.
That is awesome. I did want to talk about like the background of it because it was added in 825, the original model, and people
hmm
loved it. I know a lot of Day Minor friends of mine are just obsessed with it, and it's so awesome to see it in finally. I guess if you can say, what was the original plan with it? Because it's so detailed.
yeah, I think so. I'm trying to. I'm honestly trying to remember. I think there were some discussions of Hearthstone collaboration, some discussions of some of we had a Warcraft Tavern marketing campaign several years back, where there was like a live action spot filmed, and I think we were looking for ways to pull something like that into the game initially for promotional purposes, but it didn't quite fit. And then we just had this gathering cobwebs over the years, and we're simultaneously our narrative team and actually Metzen, we're talking about how we all wish there were a gathering place for some of these major lore characters, that made sense and we didn't have to like move them around every patch to suit the story, and those two ideas just kind of fit together.
That's awesome. Are the stories related to Midnight, or are they just like random little side stories with Gammon or something like that?
A bit of both, right? I mean, I think certainly the events of Midnight are what's happening right now, and so that's going to touch, the stories and what everyone is most focused on. But I think going forward, it should be a mix of current and evergreen.
Okay, excellent. Um, oh, what I had something else that I wanted to say with oh, the void. I did the so I don't know if this was like super early or whatever. So I did the Void Elf unlock quest in Koresh. Is it fully in? Because it felt perhaps this is just feedback from like me
Yeah.
just playing it the first time. It felt a little like anticlimactic, I guess, in a sense, right? So we just kind of finished we killed the big observer, and then
hmm
they were like, "Hey, we'll go teach you how to do demon hunter things." Is that the whole quest, or is there more to it that isn't perhaps on the alpha?
I think that's good. I'm actually not 100% sure. I think it gets a little messy when we have at this stage we have internal builds
Yeah.
and things that are going out. Like for example, the build that you've been playing for the last couple of days is different from the build that's about to go live for the public today. And so I
Oh,
know there's some
okay.
confusion about like class changes that were people were talking about based on their early access that were different from what's in some of our blogs. That's just because the blogs are more recent.
hmm
So I believe there is more to it, but it's also possible there's a bug. I'll need to get back to the team on that.
Okay, brilliant. Actually, related to kind of class changes, a bit of a specific one. Had a lot of questions about survival hunters. So obviously they are now getting dual wield, I believe.
Mhm.
People were wondering if you're still able to do have two-handers, or is it just going to be dual wield from now on?
I believe the intent is both. I will need to double check that, but I think we certainly wouldn't want to have people who have only used two-handers and that's all they have on them and in their bags log in and suddenly be unable to play their spec. Just looking to make sure that people have a range of aesthetic options and combat options.
Yeah, love that. Oh, someone asked about this is again really specific. Dracthyr, like armor colors and things, because obviously they do their transmogging through the barbershop and things like that. Are there any plans to kind of expand that a little bit, perhaps?
So sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sorry, yeah. So kind of the Dracthyr armors that they do through the barbershop and things. Is there any
Yeah.
plans to maybe extend that in regards to different armors you can wear or like different colors or anything like that?
Not currently in the works for Midnight, but that's something that we would definitely like to do. It's not lost on us the general pain point for Dracthyr players around the just technical limitations of what Transmog can show on their draconic forms. So the more we can do to offset that in the bespoke barbershop customizations, the better. But I think that's the kind of thing that's more likely to come in patches. I think usually, as we're thinking about the resources of the team and what our art team is working on in an expansion release, almost everything is being poured into building all the new stuff. And then in patches, we have some more bandwidth to shore up old areas that are in need of attention before we shift our attention back to a bunch of new stuff for the next expansion.
Brilliant. Also, someone did ask about, just to keep it on Dracthyr, I guess, for a second. Someone asked about Visage form on the Warband screen. They would like a choice potentially.
That is not won't begin for Midnight, but it's something we are working on. I think ever since Warband's backgrounds and customization has gone in, we've also heard requests from Druid players who want to be able to choose to be in a form or not. Just being able to customize what version of your character is showing on that screen is definitely something that we want to do.
Amazing. I played a Void Elf Demon Hunter actually for a little bit, and it was super fun. I will say one thing, and I, again, could be just alpha being alpha, and I probably shouldn't be looking at it so soon, but I made a new one, and I was spawned into Mardoom for the starting experience, and I was curious if that is the plan with them.
That should not be the plan with them.
Right.
Yeah, the things are... there's stuff that needs to be done by the time we ship the game. And then there's stuff that we want to get feedback on ASAP. And so we usually prioritize the stuff that we need feedback on to get that up and running for alpha. But yes, we understand that Void Elves are not going to have the same beginning as their Night Elf and Blood Elf brethren. You are not, in fact, locked away beneath the Vault of the Wardens for the last 1,000 years.
I was going to say, yeah, it did feel a bit strange. But then, I told someone, they were like, yeah, but it makes sense. I was like, it doesn't. It makes no sense. No. So someone in chat asking about Warbound progression for professions, like a catch-up or anything like that. I guess kind of a general thing, like with professions in Midnight. Is there anything like you want to share about what's kind of happening with those?
So let's see. So I think we are looking to simplify quality levels on certain aspects of the profession system, particularly when it comes to consumables, removing a quality level there, just looking at how things worked in practice, looking at the auction house, people really only used 2 of the 3 options anyway. I think as we, look at professions in the medium to long term and Midnight and beyond, I think we're happy overall with how the big rework that went into Dragonflight has played out in terms of adding a lot of depth to professions for crafters who really want to seek out that depth, who want to make trade skills a part of their character's identity, and also in terms of making professions and engaging with them very important even as consumers for a wide variety of players. I think both of those things were not true prior to Dragonflight. However, we've definitely lost some things in terms of approachability of crafting, broadly speaking. I think while there is that depth, that's also a daunting amount of complexity for some people who just like the idea of making stuff, but don't necessarily want to have to, download a guide and figure out how to go all the way down that rabbit hole. And so I think we'd like to move towards a world where there are perhaps 3 tiers of complexity. I think that the current level of complexity is appropriate for long-term item crafting. Like if you're making armor, you're making a weapon, you're making an item that someone is going to use for months or that you are going to use yourself for months, then all of that depth, all of that customization makes a ton of sense. Does it make sense to have that same level of complexity for a potion that you're just going to drink and not think about again? Probably not. Then at the far other end of the spectrum, gathering is something that I think we want to be nearly universal for anyone who wants to do it. And we're not quite there yet, but I think as you look at how changes to the system continue to unfold, we're probably going to be continuing to nudge things in those directions.
Brilliant. Thank you. I did one of the things that was kind of like a bit of a sleeper reveal in the notes was the mythic transmog thing. So if you get like the mythic set or higher set, it unlocks the previous sets, which honestly I read and was like, this is the greatest day of my life. And I guess a couple questions regarding that. The first one actually that people were very curious on is obviously Legion Remix is coming up, right? So knowing this information, should we just be buying the mythic sets?
That's a good question. Possibly. Well, I think they're it's a good question. Perhaps you've just saved yourself some bronze. Certainly, my expectation would be that that's how it works. It depends on whether the remix sets were set up in some unusual way, but I will take that back to the team and make sure that it's all working as intended.
Yeah, I guess the only thing with that is like because the ensemble contains the non-class agnostic ones, so perhaps it would be worth to buy them. I'm not sure. Also on that, so there was a lot of kind of thought after the fact of, so I believe upgrading items through upgrading or whatever will not give the appearances. So one of the things that was kind of a concern in the community was a lot of people do delves as like a solo gearing path, and obviously turning that delve hero track gear into tier and then upgrading on the catalyst unlocks the mythic appearance, which is obviously for players that do that content, it's the only way for them to get it.
Yes.
Is it set in stone, like in regards to like that is the plan with the upgrading thing, or is there kind of a wiggle room perhaps where we could have something?
I wouldn't say that it's set in stone. That's a topic that the team has been discussing a lot just in the last day. I think that some of our changes to how upgrading work were really focused on first and foremost the power side of the system, and wanted to add clarity there. And the general idea of a hero piece is a hero piece forever. Effectively, it only needs one type of crest to upgrade it is what we were aiming for. Like some of the problems we were looking at were the tension that players experience, where like if you're, like many players do, someone who starts off getting, let's say, a lot of hero pieces later on in a tier expects to get more myth gear. As you get towards those upper end of hero upgrades and you need gilded crests for them, you're going to often stop using them on hero pieces, hoard them until you have myth pieces later on. That feels awkward all around. Ideally, you should just use the currency, enjoy the upgrade, and not worry that you're making a mistake or falling into a trap. And so what we said, okay, what if it's just a one-to-one mapping of a crest type to a gear upgrade track? And I think that solves several problems from a power progression systems perspective. Completely understand the concern and the frustration for players who have relied on this mechanism as a way of also, getting access to new appearances of higher tiers. So I don't have an answer to give right now, but I can say that it's an issue that the team is actively discussing.
Yeah, brilliant. That was fine. I think it's important to obviously, we're pretty early alpha, so it's obviously good to get things like that out there already. So many people are asking about heirlooms. So is there any changes or updates to heirlooms coming in Midnight or beyond?
I'm not aware of any. That's not to say that there won't be any.
Right.
But I try to keep on top of as much as I can when it comes to all of the nuances of the game. But I cannot claim to be omniscient off the cuff. Sorry.
No, it's fine. There's too many layers to this game. It's insane. Yeah. You'd have to be a genius. I did some delves on the alpha. Really enjoyed it. Valera was very, very fun. She didn't have any quips, though, I will say. I hope that's coming in eventually. I was a bit
Yes.
upset about that.
Yes.
But I did enjoy the delves. I thought they were great. One thing I was curious on, I guess it might be a bit early perhaps, but like gearing in delves, could we expect any potential changes with that from the War Within?
I don't believe we have any significant changes currently planned. I think, when it comes to rewards from seasons from these core systems, I think they evolve as much during expansions as they do at the start of them, right? I think if you look at the trajectory of Delves or even how Mythic Plus has evolved over the course of War Within, right, there were significant changes to how that worked during the expansion. And so I think right now, I mean, we have been building the Midnight Delve system honestly basically simultaneously as we've been building War Within Season 3. So the changes we wanted to make are the ones that have gone into the live game. If, as we see Season 3 continue to play out, I mean, we have some months of alpha and beta ahead of us. If we start to see any cracks showing or obvious areas of opportunity or improvement, those are changes that could make their way into the first Midnight season. But currently, I think we're pretty happy with how the ecosystem is playing out.
Brilliant, thank you. So many questions in chat about it's, again, perhaps a little niche. They really would like a new achievement for mounts, for collecting mounts.
Yes, noted. Nothing to announce at this time. I think we also want to make sure that when we do increase the achievement count for mounts, that we're also offering a mount that feels worthy of that effort. I know we've heard feedback in the past when we raise the cap and it feels like a lackluster reward. And so trying to find the right fit there while recognizing that we also have a wider range of activities than ever before that demand really cool mounts. And so what happens often is like a lot of our cool mounts end up being awarded via Delves, Mythic Plus, Major Renowns, you name it. And then we look at what's left and we're like, none of these is really worthy of being the new achievement reward. And so we kick the can down the road. But we understand that collectors, particularly the very high-end ones, have exceeded the current options and want something new.
Yeah, some people have like over 1,000 mounts now. It's absurd. Someone was asking about, actually, yeah, again, might be too early to ask, and you're welcome to obviously not answer it. Pre-patch event. Now, I did notice a little Twilight Highlands portal popping up in Stormwind, and some achievements, perhaps. Is there anything you could say pertaining to that, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean the void is coming for us. Xal'atath is coming for us, and there will be, as often is the case, a series of events and dark portents that players need to bounce around the world to help defend against, that are all foreshadowing and building up to this big assault on the Sunwell that is going to kick off the expansion itself. We should be testing that pre-patch event later on in beta as we get closer to actually rolling it out. But it should be a fun intro to what's going on, and as always, a chance for people to catch up on gear and otherwise get their characters ready if they haven't been playing War Within all the way through.
Fantastic, thank you. I had a question and I've completely forgotten it. There was something about exteriors for housing. I didn't see it in the internal alpha. Is that something we're going to see fairly soon, perhaps, onto the testing?
Exteriors in what sense?
Like the housing exteriors, so like customizing the chimneys and the roofs and all the stuff out like on the outside.
Yes, that should be coming in the very near future. Just as you've seen in the video, I think there'll be human and night elf structures on the Alliance side, Orcish and Blood Elf on the Horde side, and each of those comes with a number of things that you can modify, adjust, remove, recolor, etc.
Okay, brilliant. Actually, I did want to ask. So we obviously got the really great roadmap for the alpha, like telling us when things are coming. Obviously, things are subject to change, of course, but like, do you have a rough idea of the cadence of the phases? Like, I think I want to say in War Within it was around about a week or so, like each new build.
Yeah, I think our goal is a week. I think when we publish a roadmap, we always want to leave a little wiggle room because it's alpha. And sometimes, when we are trying to make a new build to release, something is horrifically broken in it because it's alpha. And so we have to, slip back a week. So we don't want to, break promises ultimately. But our general goal is every new week, expect a new build, expect a new zone for testing, expect the new dungeons in that zone. kind of progress through the phases in that way. As the level cap goes up, we'll hit max level to do a focus test on some of the end game max level content. And then once everything is there, do a character wipe, call it beta, and invite a bunch more people in and really do that like end-to-end testing of the holistic experience.
Fantastic. I promise I did do Eversong words. They're not just, I didn't just run around Khazar and stuff. One thing I did notice, and I would kind of love to hear the philosophy, I guess, in regards to this. There's a couple of areas of Eversong Woods which are basically like one-to-one like HD upgrades. Pretty much like one example is like the Sunstrider Isle. Quel'thalas obviously as well felt very much like I was in the Burn Crusade version, if it's like in the best graphics in the world. I guess from a philosophy and design point of view, where were those decisions made in regards to like we should redesign this or versus like we should just kind of up-res this in a sense?
It's a mix of factors. I think it has to do with the story intent for that area and whether the way it was laid out, what was there, 18 years ago, still fits what we want to have happening today and what stories we need to tell. I think also the areas that were used purely for the initial starting experience for Blood Elves are generally more compact and laid out in ways that just aren't suited for modern and late game expansion play. I mean, they were meant for, a level 5 player running around. Whereas you think about Al-Keldanas, and like that was an end game space originally. It was more spread out. It had different hubs that were already meant to serve these purposes. And also, narratively, the area directly around the Sunwell is one of the places we'd expect to have changed the least. That is a place of monumental importance to this civilization, and it's almost a holy site. Whereas the rest of the woods are an evolving location. We'd expect to see the Dead Scar healed. We'd expect to see areas that were previously hostile now have been settled. And so it's exciting to kind of have that approach of marrying nostalgia with the ability to tell new stories in these familiar spaces.
Yeah, I really liked it. I love the fact that it was the same mobs in Sunstrider Isle as well. It was like the banner worm things and stuff like that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people asking about the Armani Trolls, but you did kind of answer that yesterday, so I'm not going to ask that. So
we have tweaked their appearance based on feedback since Gamescom. So thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, that was actually that's true. That was a big thing. So it's great to see that. One final thing that people are really spamming about, and again, feel free not to answer. A lot of people asking about the World of Warcraft Community Council, and if there are any plans to expand it or change it or whatever. I guess because we haven't heard a ton from it in the last couple months, I would say.
I don't have current information there off the top of my head. I think it's our community team that really administers that. So my focus has been elsewhere, but I can see what I can learn.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. I think that's probably around about time, I would say. But yeah, thank you very much, Ian. I appreciate it. I know you're very busy. You've got all the other streams to drop into, and Alpha just launched. Apparently, people were just saying the build has been pushed. So, I'm sure
nothing more
is coming
important
out.
than chatting with you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ian. Have
thank
a
you for all the great
wonderful day.
questions.
Yep.
Thank you, chat, and take care. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.